Generally, the fraud starts out small and they try to hide it. But then year after year, if nobody stops the fraud, it gets more and more brazen, and every year it gets bigger.
How does it make you feel?
It's so common.
It's so common.
You're like used to it.
I mean, you just get
numb to it.
Unfortunately, like the 100th time you've heard it, it's hard not to get a little numb.
So people could just draw down on it. And when people looked into it, this wasn't us, this was before us, they found that money was being used to rent out Caesar's Palace for parties.
They were renting Caesar's Palace.
Yes, they were like basically partying on the taxpayer money.
Stadiums.
Yes.
Leasing stadiums.
Leasing stadiums.
For what?
For parties, basically.
For parties.
Yes.
That's a big party.
The Small Business Administration giving loans to dead people over the age of 120. The answer was yes.
The Inter-American Foundation, IAF, they get $50 million a year, congressional money, to give grants. These are things like alpaca farming in Peru, the United States Institute of Peace. They were spending money on things like private jets, and they even had a $130,000 contract with a former member of the Taliban.
That was Doge and Elon Musk with Jesse Waters on Doge finding major abuses of taxpayers by the U.S. government that is largely run by Democrats, like the education department money that was used by schools to rent out baseball stadiums or to go on junkets to Caesar's Palace in Las Vegas. Joining us now from the House Doge Caucus, Congressman Michael Rulli. Congressman, we have major development, breaking news. What do you make of the Trump White House asking the Supreme Court to let Doge access Social Security systems? Chuck Schumer has said this is wrong, but isn't Social Security fake numbers the gateway to major fraud and theft of taxpayer money?
Well, Liz, I think it's a wonderful news. I think one of my main purposes to come to Congress is to protect Social Security. We are the party of protecting Social Security, and this is going to be one major step to doing it. We're going to get in there and we're going to find out where all these fraud people are, and they're ripping off Social Security. We have to protect that nest egg and grow that. And when we have people that aren't even born yet collecting Social Security, I think that's all you need to know.
Yeah, so let's back up. Fake Social Security numbers were used by dead people and people who are above the age of 115 years old to get more than $330 million in SBA loans from the Small Business Administration. People under the age of 11 years old got $300 million via fake Social Security numbers in SBA loans. So why aren't people going to jail for this? What was the SBA doing?
They were asleep at their job. That's what they were doing. And I think what this is doing, this is showing a spotlight on all the Bolsheviks that are in the government right now. You know, when you're in these committees and they go off on Doge, it gets me so upset. You know what they say, Liz? They never say, oh, you guys are monkeying with the people's money. They say, this is the government's money. They never say the people's money. They say the government's money. This is the disconnect that the people in the opposition party have. They don't even realize that we are looking for fraudsters that are taking the people's money off of them. And that's really what this is.
And that's why everybody's taxes are so high. I mean, we've already spent $150 billion nationwide to help out with Joe Biden's border crisis, helping out illegal aliens. And we've already seen him blow out government spending to wartime levels, trillions going out the door. But what's really chilling is that Doge and Elon Musk found that something like $5 trillion in spending was not properly tagged and accounted for in U.S. systems. It was just flying out the door with little to no oversight. It was like the button was on go.
Well, I mean, Jesse's interview, I think, showed a lot. I think that was a perfect example of the fraud that is there. You know, the one interesting thing is one of the younger Doge guys was saying that we have to establish a standard for protecting all of this money that is the people, their tax money. They work, their entire life, 9 to 5, 9 to 7 jobs, blue collar America, just paying all their money, the taxes. And these people can't spend it quick enough. We have to have the mechanisms. So when our party is not in control, the oversight is in place to protect all the people's money and to protect Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. So these institutions go on, and we can do it because the money's there. They're just stealing it.
Got it. Congressman Michael Rulli, a pleasure. Wonderful to see you again. Thanks for joining us.
Well, Elon Musk and Doge have apparently backed off of their plans to end the Social Security Administration's phone service, which, of course, considering the demographic that Social Security is serving, elderly people, retired folks, disabled individuals, getting rid of that incredibly important phone service seemed like a really bad idea. And so they've backed off that plan, and I'm really, really happy to hear it. But it's not all good news because the White House is still eyeing cuts to vital services within the Social Security Administration. So let's get into the details because according to the Washington Post, Social Security recipients will no longer be able to change bank account information for direct deposits over the phone. And when I first saw that, I was really concerned about it, but it turns out that this might actually be a good idea. And I'll explain why in just a minute. But first, the details on what Doge is doing here. So at a tense meeting Tuesday, Doge staff members grilled career officials about phone fraud. But as employees suggested potential solutions, Doge representatives weren't interested in anything else but defending the decision that they had already made, one of the people said. And the decision is to end the practice of allowing, Social Security recipients to change their bank account information for direct deposits over the phone. So in attempting to explain why, the agency told the press that approximately 40% of Social Security direct deposit fraud is associated with someone calling the Social Security Administration to change direct deposit bank information. The current protocol of simply asking identifying questions by telephone is no longer enough to prevent fraud. And it turns out that they're actually right about that. You have to keep in mind, we're unfortunately living in a time when personal information on literally everybody in the country is readily available online. And so these fraudsters, whether they engage in hacking or just rely on publicly available personal information online, they can use that to essentially trick the Social Security Administration into believing that the person they're speaking to is the actual legitimate Social Security recipient. And so I'm going to give you some data on this in just a moment because it turns out that there is truth to what's being alleged here. And I say that as someone who was very skeptical of Doge coming into this story as I started researching this story, because we've seen Elon Musk lie about so many different things. I never take what anyone says at face value. I want to look into it. And it turns out that there is some issue here with fraud. Now, to be fair, fraud in direct deposit transactions has been recognized as a problem for several years. In fact, I'm going to share with you a piece that was written March of 2024. Okay, a year ago. So this is before Trump won the election, before we had any idea that he was going to be, the Republican nominee. It's titled How Fraudsters Break into Social Security Accounts and Steal Benefits. Thousands of people receiving Social Security benefits have had their money diverted into criminal accounts. Here's what to know.
Go ahead, one more. Make it a good one, please.
Okay, regarding Social Security taxes for seniors,
right.
We've talked about a while. Experts say that the policy could increase the deficit by 1.6 trillion. So how would it work in your view?
We have so many ways of making money in this country. We're not going to affect our Social Security. We're not changing it. And I proved that over 4 years. And we're going to do it. It's very unfair to people. They spend their life and they're great citizens and they pay in. We're not going to charge tax to Social Security, the seniors. We're not going to do it. We're not going to charge. And also tax. I say the two things. We're going to have no tax on seniors, Social Security, and we're going to have no tax on tips. Very simple. And we are a country that has so many different ways to make money. We have under our feet more liquid gold, I call it oil, and gas, than any country in the world, much more than Saudi Arabia, much more than Russia. We have so many different ways we can make money. We're not going to hurt our seniors with Social Security, and we're not going to charge them tax, okay?
Can I squeeze one in on Israel?
President Trump continues to say his administration won't touch Social Security, the social safety net that around 70 million retired and disabled Americans depend on each month. But as Elon Musk and the so-called Department of Government Efficiency look to slash federal jobs and spending, the Social Security Administration has plans to cut 12% of its workforce. Our Laura Barone-Lopez reports on how that could affect the program and its payments.
The acting agency head told employees this week that it's Musk and Doge that are calling the shots at SSA. The Washington Post reported that Leland Dudek told senior staff at SSA that Musk's team of, quote, outsiders who are unfamiliar with nuances of SSA programs are making decisions and that they will make mistakes. And this morning, the agency told its workers they can no longer use their government computers to look at, among other things, news websites, even blocking access to some of them. The restriction was said to help protect sensitive information. But news sites and obituaries are often relied on to confirm death information and prevent fraud.
They keep saying they're protecting Social Security like it's a badge of honor. Trump says it at every rally, not a penny will be cut. No taxes on seniors. We're defending your benefits. But behind the speeches, behind the cameras, The truth tells a different story. This isn't protection, it's calculated neglect. While Trump is out front smiling, his team is in the back room slashing. They're cutting 12% of the Social Security Administration's workforce. They're closing field offices. They're eliminating phone access for millions of seniors and disabled Americans. They're blocking SSA employees from even using obituary sites to verify death records under the absurd excuse of cybersecurity. And who's running the show? Not experienced civil servants, not public advocates, but billionaire tech guys like Elon Musk, with zero understanding of how these programs work, making decisions from behind closed doors. And all of it, every cut, every closed door, every ignored call is being sold as efficiency, as anti-fraud. But let's be real, this isn't about stopping fraud. It's about pushing people out of the system quietly, slowly, without a fight. It's about creating frustration so people give up. That's the strategy. Break the system, blame the user, and then call it a win. And while they're cutting services, Trump stands up and says, "We won't tax Social Security." But how do you pay for the program if you slash funding, hand out tax breaks to the rich, and pretend there's no cost? They're digging a hole and pretending it's a foundation. And it's not just dishonest, it's dangerous. Because when people can't get their checks, when they can't get help, when the system stops responding, it's not the politicians who suffer. It's working people. It's the retirees who paid in their whole lives. It's the disabled vets, the single moms, the caregivers, the people holding this country together who are now told, "Sorry, we've streamlined you out of existence." They say this is about waste, but they don't talk about the waste in military contracts. They don't talk about corporate tax loopholes. They only talk about cutting programs that serve people who aren't rich, who aren't powerful, who don't have lobbyists writing their talking points. And that's the part that should make us furious, because Social Security isn't a luxury. It's not an extra. It's the basic floor beneath millions of Americans' lives. And this administration is pulling the floor out while telling us they're building a new foundation. There's not building anything. They're tearing it down, slowly, and hoping we're too distracted to notice. But we notice. We see the contradiction. We see the cruelty dressed up as policy. And we are not fooled. So ask yourself, is this what protecting Social Security looks like? Does slashing staff and closing access sound like care? Or does it sound like a system being hollowed out from the inside while they smile for the cameras? If this made you angry, good. It should. Now take that anger and act. Like, comment. Share this video with someone who still believes in fairness, in dignity, in the simple idea that when you work your whole life, your country should have your back. Because Social Security isn't just a policy, it's a promise. And we are not going to let them break it.